Rush hour traffic is the biggest threat to common toads. One of the most populous species of amphibians in Europe, common toads are small, four-legged animals that live in the water and on land. Though millions of common toads waddle their way around Europe, the species is on the decline, and rush hour traffic is one of its biggest threats. Currently, they experience the highest rate of mortality among amphibians in Europe, and 20 tons of the animal are killed yearly during spring migration. Grassroots conservation teams across the continent have mobilized over the past 2 decades. These groups are making great strides in saving countless animals. Still, more public education is needed to thwart the diminishing numbers. Parasite attacks. Common toads are vulnerable to several parasitic attacks by various animals, including fatal fly and worm attacks. A friend of witches. In the Middle Ages, people associated toads with witches and the devil, whose coat of arms featured 3 toads. The species was believed to have magical powers. If a toad was found in a house, people assumed that the residents of the home were associated with witches. Literary standard. Over the centuries, great English writers, like William Shakespeare, A. Milne, and George Orwell, famously referenced toads in their work. Milne even wrote an entire play about a toad lawyer named Mr. Toad, who lived on an estate named Toad Hall. No worry, common toads have lumps on their skin. People often refer to them as thwarts. Though their bumps resemble warts, they're not communicable, and you won't grow warts if you handle the animal. Dead skin meals. Common toads occasionally shed their skin. Instead of leaving the discarded epidermis on the ground, toads tidy up by eating it. Clam transporter. Fingernail clams use toads as transporters. The small mollusks cling to the toad's toes and use the amphibian to carry them to different locations. Common toads are also known as European toads. Their scientific name is bufo. Bufo is a Latin word that means toad, but some linguists think the word has older language roots. Osco-Umbrian languages predate Latin and were spoken in central and southern Italy. Researchers now believe that bufo is a borrowed root word that means sliminess and stems from these ancient tongues. However, the characterization is a bit of a misnomer because toad skin is dry. On average, common toads are about 10 to 18 centimeters, 4 to 7 inches, long. How much does a common toad weigh? The species usually weighs between 20 and 80 grams, 0.7 and 2.8 ounces. In other words, the biggest European toads only weigh half as much as a baseball. Southern toads are typically larger than their northern counterparts, and females are usually bigger than males. Coloring for individual animals varies between gray-brown and olive-brown. Males are usually browner than females. Both sexes of the species have dirty white underbellies with gray and black splotches. All toads sport wart-like lumps, and their skin is dry. Toads have slightly protruding snouts with mouths and 2 nostrils. They don't have teeth or necks, but they do have bulging, bulbous eyes with yellow or copper irises and horizontal stilted pupils. Behind each eye is a gland filled with a substance known as bufotoxin, or bufogen, which is a noxious liquid that toads excrete when they sense a predator or feel threatened. When attacked, common toads can also inflate their bodies, raise high on their legs and lower their heads to form a defensive stance. Common toads are often confused with natterjack toads and European green toads. However, natterjacks have a yellow stripe that runs along the lengths of their backs, and green toads have a distinct pattern that differentiates them from common toads. Toads prefer to be alone, but they do congregate for mating season. As nocturnal animals, common toads wake at dusk and spend the evenings hunting for food. At sunrise, they return to their lairs and sleep the day away. A toad's year consists of 3 stages: sleeping, mating, and eating. In winter, they burrow away and enjoy a winter sleep. Different than hibernation, winter sleeps don't result in the animal's bodily functions slowing to a point where they don't wake for months. Sometimes, on milder winter days, you can find a common toad out foraging for food, though it's rare. During the winter sleep period, toads find long-term slumber spots in basements, under mud composts, and around dead wood. Some dig ground holes near other amphibians. They wake in the spring and start migrating to their ancestral breeding grounds, which can be miles away. To travel, the weather needs to be above 5 degrees Celsius (41 degrees Fahrenheit). In the autumn, toads spend their time filling up on food. Common toads have 4 legs, which they use to get around. The majority of the time, toads get from place to place by walking. It's a clumsy walk, but they can reach speeds of up to 8 kilometers (5 miles) per hour. Occasionally, they'll intersperse their walking with short, awkward hops. Toads use vocalizations for various reasons. In the amphibian symphony, they are responsible for the high-pitched quark 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 calls. Toads settle disputes mainly through croaking, and the tenor of its croak is an indication of its size. The bigger the toad, the deeper the quark.